Okay, I am showing my screen. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay, so a few of the things that we want to talk about tonight, just an overview of the session, is we want to talk about what a library database is. We also want to talk about some different types of databases. We have subject-specific databases. We also have more general multi-purpose databases. And then we're also going to talk about some database search strategies. So one of the questions I meant to ask before I pulled this up actually was, Andrea, what are some things that you find particularly helpful about the library databases versus Google Scholar? If you can think of something not on this chart, that would be great.
Well, I think one of the things that I think that is the most helpful with library databases is that we've selected them specifically to help students with their coursework and their capstone and dissertation research. So they're very specific to what our students are doing.
Sure.
And that's what I think is the most helpful about databases.
Yeah, I think absolutely that the content, like you're saying, is going to be specific for what our students are looking for versus in Google Scholar, you're going to find resources touching on a variety of topics that maybe you aren't interested in, journals that might not be relevant for you. And so this chart actually provides some nice concrete ideas of what the databases can do versus what Google Scholar can do. And I know that we cover Google Scholar in its own webinar, but it is useful. I just wanted to point out that it is useful to supplement, to start with the library databases and supplement with Google Scholar versus doing it the other way around. And so we see here, right, that in Google Scholar, you cannot limit to full text. You cannot limit to peer review. And you can't search like Control F through an article abstract. And it doesn't list out subject terms necessarily. You can find those in the article themselves, but not in Google Scholar. Okay, so what actually is a library database? We think of a library database as a large collection of related materials. So sometimes what you find in a library database is going to be a collection of journals and books in a particular field of study, or you may find in the more general purpose databases a collection of a wide range of journals and ebooks and other types of resources like dissertations that will be included in a specific database. So some of the ways that we can use a library database is that we can search by topic, we can search by title, we can search by the title of a publication if we want to. And so we wanted to demo some of how this would happen. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with our multidisciplinary database Thoreau, but we're going to talk about that as well. And so we see on this slide here, we can search for articles various ways, like I said, by topic, by title. We can dig into specific publications. And then we wanted to point out that within these databases, we do have these ones that are subject specific. We have ones that are good for pretty much any field of study. And then we also have databases that are specific types of materials. So you may find, for example, if you're looking specifically for dissertations, you need to look in the dissertations database. And the Thoreau multi-database tool will find a variety, a collection of all of these things, encyclopedias, dissertations, journals, which you can then limit down a little bit more. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is how do we find articles by topic? So recent peer-reviewed articles on standardized testing. I want to ask really quick, Andrea, just because I see a hand raised. Do we have anything to address before I go into demoing?
Yeah, I just wanted to do a quick sound check and make sure everyone's able to see the presentation. I'm just getting one student that can't um, see the presentation or hear the audio. So I just wanted to check with some other students. If you can just type in the questions box, let us know if you're seeing and hearing the presentation okay. Okay, great. So it looks like, so no questions actually, and we're just having just a few issues with just one particular student. So feel free, carry on, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure. And so I am going to, and I'm sorry, Andrea, when we're talking about articles by topic, we're looking at Thoreau. Do we want to look at a difference between Thoreau and a subject database?
Sure. Yeah, if that's how, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to go out of the PowerPoint just for a second, and I'm going to navigate over to the library's homepage. Hopefully this looks familiar to all of you. And so when we talked about Thoreau, this is going to be the Thoreau search. And we can tell it's, we have the check mark here. If we switch over to here, we're going to search a collection of other things, tutorials, webinars, quick answers, etc. So I just want to make sure you understand that there are actually two different searches here. And so if I'm interested in standardized testing, apologies, I have to log in once a session, just like you guys do. And so here we see a ton of results. But a few of the things that we can see, right, when we talk about publication types, of these thousands of results that we got, we see from here how it's broken down. And so just like I said with Thoreau, it's looking at everything from peer-reviewed articles to conference materials to reviews, which could be book reviews. And so if this is something we're interested in, if, for example, we're only interested, we're looking at that broader issues associated with the topic, we may be interested only in books. So this is one way when we're using Thoreau that we can continue to refine our search. And we can see what exactly is in here. And so a few of the other things we see on the left-hand side is that we're going to want to limit. We often want to limit to peer-reviewed. And then we often want to change the publication dates too, right? Because we're not necessarily interested in standardized testing in 1911. When you're looking at the databases in your search results in Thoreau, Andrea, is there anything, are the main things you encourage students to look at in addition to, you know, when they're looking at limiting their search and the subject terms? One of the things, I'm sorry, I wanted to ask you for your database tips, but one of the things I wanted to point out too is that if we change this from this page options from brief to detailed, this is just a really quick tip, and then you can see your abstract right within your list of results without actually having to click into the article to look. And part of the reason I like this is because if we had multiple search terms, it's bolding our search terms in the subjects, and then it will also bold them in the abstract. Was there anything else, Andrea, that you wanted to point out about search results in Thoreau?
No, I'm okay right now. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to hop back, and so we're talking about so recent peer reviewed. We talked about how to limit by publication date. We could have changed that to like 2018, so it wasn't going all the way back to I think it was 1911. And then limiting to peer reviewed. So then what though if instead of having a broad topic like standardized testing, you were interested in finding articles by title? I'm going to just quickly demo this as well. And, oh, I can't copy and paste from here. Apologies. We can take this entire title and we can search in the databases or in Google Scholar for this exact title. Since we are actually coming up on my time, do you want me to demo that, Andrea, in terms of using the quotes in the databases or Google Scholar to pull up full text?
If you want to continue on with the rest of your content, that's okay too.
Okay, that sounds good. And so we could do a similar thing with the articles, an article by title, by just searching by that specific title in Thoreau or Google Scholar. And then, so one of the things we wanted to make sure that we talked about is this difference between a database and a vendor. And EBSCO, many of you have probably heard of, and they are a very large vendor, and they have a ton of databases. And so listed below EBSCO host are some of the databases you might be familiar with. And so what that means is that these databases like PsycInfo and Education Source are on the EBSCO platform. So they're all going to look kind of similar when you reach the search interface. Sometimes there are additional search features and limiters that you can use in these specific databases, but the main thing to be aware of here is that PsycInfo is a database and EBSCO is the vendor for that database. Listed here is ProQuest. They're also a very large vendor of databases, and you'll find a lot of the articles that you're looking for, whether you're searching by topic, whether you're searching by title, you're gonna find articles in these specific databases. And then on the far right are some additional databases like Science Direct, Taylor and Francis, Sage Journals, which are not nearly as large as ProQuest or EBSCO, but certainly we have databases owned by those vendors. And I believe that takes us to the concluding portion of my section.
Great. So everybody should see the PowerPoint with the database search basics, steps 1 through 8. Is that what you're seeing on your end, Lisa?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. I was drinking water.
Great. All right. So since library databases search differently from tools like Google Scholar, it's good to know the exact steps that will get you the most relevant search results. So the steps that you see on the screen are actually a good cheat sheet to keep handy. I'm not a big advocate of printing. I like trees to stay in the ground, but this is one thing that I often recommend to students that they print and just keep handy for coursework. And if you're working on a larger project or dissertation research, to basically remind you of the process for searching library databases, because the process always is essentially the same. So if we briefly go over these steps, how do you search a database? So how do we make sense of what Lisa was doing earlier, right? So the first step is you simply take your assignment or discussion prompt, your dissertation topic, and you list out the main ideas, and then brainstorm synonyms and any similar concepts. And then step 2 is selecting a database. And all databases essentially search the same. So the number 3 and 4 are pretty important. Enter one idea or concept per search box. But the little caveat to that is that you can combine similar ideas and concepts in the same search box separated with or. Next, we're going to limit our search. So the 3 main ways that we're going to briefly cover tonight are, again, full text, peer review, and date, which Lisa briefly went over earlier. And then step 6 through 8 we'll talk about briefly, but we're not going to cover so much in this webinar because we have others mysteries webinars that talk about this. But you'll search, of course, and review your results, get the full text of anything that looks interesting or pertinent to what you're trying to accomplish. And then, of course, you evaluate, modify, experiment, and start back up at step 1 again. So let's look at a discussion prompt and see what a database search will look like if you had a topic such as, is parent involvement in elementary school related to student success? So that's your assignment. and you are to find some peer-reviewed material that can answer that question. So the first step, if you go back to our list, is you take the main ideas and then you brainstorm synonyms and similar concepts. So in this topic, what are the main ideas? Well, the main ideas are parent involvement, elementary school, and student success. So we're going to start with what we have. That's always a great place to start. So let's head over to the library. So you should all be seeing the library homepage. Now, the next step, right, step number 2 is select a database. Well, we covered an overview of databases, but let's just do a really quick refresher. So at the top, we have Thoreau, and that searches all the library databases. It searches most of them. There's a few that it doesn't, but for the most part, we use Thoreau for exploratory research when we're not sure where to start. Most of the time, however, you're going to actually start over here, research by subject. And when you click on this, you'll see that all of our databases are going to be grouped together by topic. So if your topic was mainly about psychology, you would click on psychology. If it was mainly about human services or social work, you would head to those pages. Now, since our topic is related to education, we're going to go right there. There's no need for us to search criminal justice, nursing, IT, so we're going to head right over to education. Now, all of our, what we call our subject research pages, look the same. You're going to have a main search box at the top. You're going to have your collection of, you can think of them like physical materials, so things you can actually use in the library. And then this last box at the bottom is more research help, so how-to guides. So when you get to your research homepage, you can look right here under the databases drop-down menu. And you can often start with anything that's labeled best bet. Those are just recommendations of good places to start. So Education Source is one of the main education databases. So we are going to click in there. Now again, as Lisa was saying, EBSCOhost is the vendor, but we're actually searching the database called Education Source. So let's kind of go back to, we'll go back to step 3. So enter one idea or concept per search box. So let's go ahead and take our main ideas. So we said parent involvement, elementary school, and student success. So now we said even though one idea or concept goes into each search box, we can include synonyms and similar concepts in each search box. Now, when we start typing or to give the database options, it's going to suggest other terms. My rule of thumb is pick the ones that seem the most appropriate for your topic. I don't always use all of the ones that are suggested. So I'm going to search parent involvement or parent participation. Now, I know in other countries, elementary school is called primary school. Also in the United States, we call it grade school. So I'm going to put in all those options. And then student success, we might also call academic achievement, academic performance. So now this database is going to find any of these terms, parent involvement or parent participation. And they're also going to find any one of these terms. And they're also going to find any one of these terms. Not all of them, but the database has a choice to pick from. So just remember or goes inside the search box, and you can leave the and this drop-down menu over here. So if we go on to step 5, which was limit your search, so the 3 things to think about are full text, peer review, and date. So full text is often typically checked, but peer review is not. So make sure to check that for peer-reviewed research articles. And I don't recommend limiting by date at first, because we can always do that on the results page. So let's go ahead and search. Now, like I said, we're not going to go too much through steps 6, 7, and 8. You can attend another mysteries webinar, but let's do a quick debrief about what we're looking at. So we have 103 articles, again, that have any of these terms in combination with one another. I recommended not limiting by date at first because if you look over on the left-hand side, most databases on the results page will give you some more options to limit. So you don't have to go back to the main search page. So you can see here, there's a date limiter that if we wanted to, we could type in 2016, 2017 to get the last 4 or 5 most current articles. And then the last thing to point out is this subject line right here. So this is one of the most useful tools I find to be available in databases, which is all of these are the main ideas of the article. So before we even look at the abstract, you can easily see that this article is about parent participation, elementary schools, academic achievement. This is interesting. It happens to be focused on Indonesia. So if that wasn't in the title, we could see that from the subject line. And then they have something about socioeconomics that's related to this article. So if we wanted to limit this search to just articles whose main idea is about parent participation, we can go and modify our search by deleting these options up here and telling the database to search for parent participation in only this subject line. So we get articles that are mainly about parent participation. They're not just mentioning them, they're actually the main idea is that. So if we click search, our 303 results go down to 218 results. So that is essentially how databases work. Those 8 steps will get you relevant results each time. If you want to learn more about some of the more neat features that you can do, Lisa used quotation marks. We can use something called truncation and other fancy search techniques that you can learn about in some of our other mysteries webinars. So before I move on, is there any questions that I can address to the group, Lisa?
Nope, not at this
Okay,
time.
great. So I just want to quickly, since we're wrapping up here, just let you know that EBSCO databases search slightly differently than ProQuest databases. So in EBSCO databases, they search for these actual terms, so these literal terms in the article title, publication information, subjects, and abstract. Now, when you search a ProQuest database, for instance, it actually ends up searching in the entire article. So if we were to try this same search, limit to full text and peer review, if I search the entire article for these terms, it's going to give me too many results, right? 100,000 results. So the easiest way to limit those is to go back and modify your search and tell it to search anywhere except the full text. So that's a really important concept to distinguish between the two types of databases, right? So ProQuest databases and EBSCO is that you want to, in ProQuest, just search anywhere but the full text. And then it searches much more like an EBSCO database and searches the article title, publication information, subjects, and abstract instead of the entire article title. So now we're down to a more reasonable amount, 276 results. And again, we can limit by date, and all of those options are available there on the left. So those are just some quick tips on searching databases that you can work through. On the PowerPoint, if you're having a hard time understanding sort of the difference between the ors and the ands, there are some graphics here that are helpful to some students. So when we did parent involvement and elementary school, the article had to have mentioned both of those concepts. But when we gave the database options of or, it could search for either elementary school or primary school, or even if the article had both, it would bring up that article as well. So that's how you can sort of make a little bit more sense of how we use the and the ors. So again, this is a brief webinar to just kind of give you some information to get you started on databases. So all of the things that you want to learn more in depth, you can use the links that are in the PowerPoint, how to find databases by subject, all the way to the end here, which has a longer discussion about what subject terms are. So lastly, as we close up, I just want to let you all know how you can get further help about any library topic or your own research that you're interested in. And I like to think of this as 3 tiers of help. So quick answers is kind of a do-it-yourself. Ask a Librarian is available for personalized assistance for all students. And then doctoral research appointments are more individual instruction for our doctoral students. So how do we use those help features on our website? So quick answers is kind of tucked in here at the top. So instead of clicking Thoreau, we're going to search everything, which includes our library database, which includes our library website. So for instance, if you're interested in a DOI and what that is, we didn't cover that, of course, at all tonight, but you can search our quick answers FAQ database. And in the middle here, you'll see all kinds of common questions that students ask. What is a DOI? How do I find it? How do I cite an article with and without a DOI? So that's what you can do for your sort of self-help if you want. Ask a Librarian is more individual and personalized help. So that's available at the top of all of our library web pages. So the 2 main ways you can contact us are through email and chat. So in email, you can fill out this short form. We typically, our turnaround time is 24 hours, but honestly, it's much quicker, typically the day of, if not within a few hours. But don't tell any of my colleagues that I said that because the standard line is 24 hours. But again, reach out to us. We often can send you a response much quicker than that. Chat is available throughout the week, so you can look at hours here. And just keep in mind if you use voicemail that we return all voicemails via email. So look for an email in your Walden email for a response. And then that last tier was doctoral research appointments, which are available for our dissertation and doctoral study students. So if you would like to meet with me, if you're a psychology or counseling student, if you'd like to meet with Lisa, if you're health sciences, or any of our other librarians, you can simply find your college and school, and then select a day and time that works for you and fill out, again, a short form that you can submit to us, and we can meet by phone, screen sharing, whatever is going to work the best for you. So that is the presentation for tonight. So what we are going to go ahead and do, since we are at the hour, is we're going to go ahead and stop the recording, but we're going to stick around for a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions. So thank you everyone for coming that has to leave after the 30 minutes. And if anybody has any questions, if you want to go ahead and put those in the question box, we'll answer those. And for everybody else, have a good night.